The Divine Bitch Podcast. Wake up, be aware, and live your life fully. Welcome to a new episode of the Divine Bitch Podcast. Join us when we journey into awareness, explore what it truly means to wake up, expand your consciousness, and live your life with presence.
To feel fully is to know yourself deeply. The power of emotions as compass. I always use the word emotion as energy in motion. Mm-hmm. I know that my own experience, I had the idea that I only experienced two emotions a few years before.
Okay.
I was okay or I was not okay.
Sounds familiar.
And I think many people can relate or can remember they were there. And since then, I can only acknowledge that there's so much to feel inside of me. Mm-hmm. And the more I let go of the rational way of understanding, in between brackets, understanding those emotions compared to just feeling them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What's your experience with emotions, and especially as a compass?
Mm-hmm. Well, my experience with emotions was that they were completely blocked at some point. So as many of people out there, it was good or bad. There was nothing in between. As soon as my healing process started, I realized there was much more. And through body work, through movement and dance, I could actually feel how my state would shift from 1 minute to the next by moving. And I realized later on that emotions are literally neurons moving inside of the neural circuits. So that's where the word movement comes about. But obviously, if we are constricting ourselves, if we are stuck, if we are tense, then there is little room for these neurons to move. So for me, to be able to freely express my emotions, I had to do body work. I had to first learn how to use my body again. Mm-hmm. And I see that a lot here in the practice as well. People want to feel more, but they just don't know how to. And I always say the body is the avatar of the emotions. So work on the body and the emotions will come. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you give an example of, especially in the beginning, how you learned for yourself that your body wants to move and to especially allow that movement?
Yeah. It was a difficult process. It was a very frustrating process, to be honest, for me, because I didn't realize how stuck I was. Obviously, I had several operations after I had the paralysis, and I had to explore my body again. And by gradually learning new movements, for instance, turning around on my own axe, I was not able to do that on my own center. By going into that and by being disciplined about it, I learned that not only my body was becoming more mobile, but I was getting emotional. I was crying sometimes without realizing what it was for. I didn't realize I was sad, but I could see the tears coming, falling down across my cheeks. So that was an eye-opener because I was doing movement to improve my mobility. And in the end, it led to me exploring and feeling a lot more than I ever could expect. Then that's the first thing, allowing yourself to freely move again. But then I noticed that my mind wanted to understand. And then I got blocked again. Because there were so many things that my body was experiencing. And the fact that I couldn't understand it was frustrating for me. Because why am I crying? Why am I so angry? Because I felt a lot of anger. And I didn't really have the answers. So then I blocked myself again. So it led to I did about 4 years of studies in dance and movement, and then another 3 years into integrating all that into a practical experience. But yeah, after that, I could feel that through that movement, my body was no longer blocking it. And it also helped me to not want to understand anymore. You know, it's feelings are feelings. Why am I feeling this? Why am I so angry? I don't know. But I expressed that anger in my movement and I was gone. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you literally learn to express with your body instead only with your voice.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I think today still I rarely express my emotions through voice. When I do so, it's often the emotion of the non-expressed feeling. And I try and avoid it. Because if I have a positive experience of my feeling, it's usually my body that will show it. I went to a concert this weekend. I allowed my body to move freely. And I felt joy, happiness, peace as well. But if I am tired at the end of the day and I don't feel my anger, then I might go into an emotional state and express towards my husband that I don't like him anymore. That is not a healthy experience of a feeling. That is an unhealthy expression, a mental expression of an emotion. And for me, the emotion is the non-expressed feeling. Yeah, it's something that you hold in until your voice needs to do something with it. That said, you can express feelings through voice, of course. Yeah, singing. There's a lot of cultures that embody the chanting of the voice, the throat. So that's clearly positive. But in a Western world where we are very mental beings, the words are often the non-expressed feelings.
And also, like you said, we're very mental. People became very mental, and often expressing something that needs to be expressed can change a lot, can heal a lot, but it's not the way to keep on expressing it.
And it's not the only way, for sure.
No, it's not, especially not the only way. But it's my experience also that it's important for yourself to find the words that resonate.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, again, you can, and that's my experience, you can feel stuck with what you are experiencing because you're not able to express anything around it or bring it into words, and you remain stuck with yourself because you don't feel understood.
Yeah.
And it's not the other one that has to understand you. Other people do not have to understand you, but it's actually you with yourself again.
Yeah. I think, putting words to it is a good way of making a universal experience earthly. Yeah. It helps to explain to others what you are going through. I think that there is a different degree with which you need that explanation. I think for me personally, I can be very at ease with not putting words to things. But I know that for many clients, it's different. Yeah, I think the degree with which the balances are sought can vary from one person to the next. But living through a feeling and moving it in your body, I know that the words will automatically come. That is true. Because you have actually integrated that experience through the 4 bodies. Yeah.
How could people start with moving their body, allowing their body to move, and especially in a way that is safe from inside of yourself? So it's not an explanation. It's not an exercise. It's not something you have to do, but it's in a different way that you can allow yourself.
Yeah, I always say, dance as if nobody is watching. There is a method that we use in dance and movement, which is called authentic movement. It's taught to a lot of actors and so on. Authentic movement is the free expression of your feelings. So basically, put yourself in a room, close your eyes. You can put on music, but authentic movement is often without music. Listen to your body and start from there. Allow movements to start from within. And while that movement occurs, try and observe what's happening. Be an inner witness again of that movement. It's really fascinating what you can experience, because a lot of people say, I'm not a dancer. But when you go into that safe space where you say, no matter what you do, it's fine. Even not moving, that tells you a lot as well, because sometimes you get stuck. And observing that you are stuck in your body, that is already the beginning of a healing process. Also find movements that you like. If you don't like to dance, maybe you want to run. But with every step that you make when you are outside, try and just listen to what your body is telling you. You may feel exhausted when running. Try and see what happens if you slow down a bit, because in that slowing down, probably something is going to happen with your feelings. And start with something that speaks to you. Don't make it an assignment. It needs to be like an invitation that helps you to explore that emotional body further.
So let your body move and, again, observe. Be aware of whatever that arises, whatever thoughts that show up, whatever that attracts you at that time.
Exactly. And also, in the first instance, try not to explain it. Try and find the words afterwards. Go into the experience, try and see where it brings you. And then if you need to understand why, what, and so on, then you can do some journaling on it. But first, give some space to that emotional body.
First, the experience.
Yes, exactly, definitely.
And maybe only the experience.
Yeah, true as well. Yeah.
But like you said, if you feel the need to understand more or to dive deeper, because that's something that I've experienced myself often. Like, okay, this is something is happening, something is moving, but I feel I'm not at the core yet. It's not the root where I want to move towards the root. In which way would you suggest people to continue with that process?
How would they continue with that process? In movement, you mean?
Yes.
I'll give you an example, because movement can be very discreet. I felt not so long ago I was completely stuck in my chest, and I did not know why. Every night I went to bed and I would feel tremendous pain on the chest. I had no knowledge of what was happening on the inside. And I said, okay, I need to do something now because something is happening. And I went to bed. I started moving my shoulders, but very slightly, like really light movements, micro movements. Micro movements are much better than big movements. And through those micro movements, I could feel gradually, and I just stayed with it. I was not thinking about anything. I didn't understand what was happening. I would put elastics to expand the sensation of the movement. So, imagined elastics that were opening up on when I was breathing in and that were closing a little bit when I was breathing out. And I applied those elastics on the shoulder and on the area of the heart. And what happened was, after about 10 minutes, I started crying. And I started crying deeply. And I would feel more pain. So I stayed with that. I put really small movements in the arm and all the areas that, were hurting. And then I could feel the energy releasing. And I realized later on, not even the same day or the same night, that my cat had died. My cat, who has been with me for about 20 years. And I was not dealing with that pain. And I could have thought about it because honestly, I could have made the link, but I didn't. I just followed the body and applied those micro movements to be able to grieve. So that could be a good way of dealing with movement. Make really small micro movements, because then you go to the emotional state on a very deep level. You go through the fascia to reach the emotions that are actually in your body still.
So it's, again, bringing your awareness to that area of your body that actually is already signaling you with tension, with stuckness, with pain, with
a heavy load.
With any load, and again, with curiosity, and allowing it to, like you said yourself, let your breath be the movement itself, and let it move with the rhythm of your breath, because also your breathing will also be altered because of the sensation that you experience.
Yeah, for sure. And, breath is such a gift of life. I mean, honestly, just observing breath in itself will make your emotions move. But that in and out flow, that is movement. And you can do a lot with that in and out flow. You can imagine that you have a balloon that opens up and it becomes smaller. You can do an elastics in length, in depth, in width. You can really create movement in all dimensions by using that, visual of a balloon in your stomach, and all areas where you would feel something is stuck or where we are experiencing pain. That is movement as well. You don't have to dance. Some people tell, I don't want to dance. You don't have to dance.
If they really don't want to dance, maybe they should. But
yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah, to understand where the resistance comes
why they
from.
are resisting it that much.
Yeah, true.
And we're talking about movement, and there's a horse passing by now at the window. So it was moving, it is moving very rhythmically.
Yeah.
What I noticed for myself, because I've been a lot into sports since I was very young, is that also movements, if it's instructed, it becomes conditioning.
True.
If people have been dancing for part of their life, but they learned, again, in between brackets, they learned how to dance, that's probably not the way for them.
Yeah.
But if they feel very connected to their body, it's a different way. But if it's something that, again, is conditioned, and for me, I conditioned myself to learn to move very controlled. To do the movements in a perfect way. And again, I became a physio, and again, then you become even more fascinated and fixated on correct movements.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
But like the words you use, it's self-expression, it's authentic movement. So there's no script, there's no right, there's no wrong. There's just allowing what comes up.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why in dance and movement therapy, we only work with non-conditioned forms of movement. So there is authentic movement, there is chase, there is Laban, Bartenia fundamental. So it's different styles of movement that have nothing to do with rhythm or specific forms from an outside perspective. And we actually taught dancers to do authentic movement because they lost connection with their own feelings. And a lot of dancers struggle with that today. So a lot of dancers get the feedback, you're a good dancer functionally and technically, but we don't see any emotion in your dance. And that's because, some people have used movement to not feel. That also exists. The very rigid choreographies of classical ballet, for instance, those are known for that. But still, if the body can get accustomed to that type of movement, you can get used to authentic movement. Yeah. And even, I had a session of a person who did not move 1 millimeter, but he got so much out of that session because he said, I didn't realize I was so stuck. Nothing came. There was nothing that I was actually doing that could get me out of this stuckness. So that's where you start then.
And especially that's what I remember, that you've answered to the question, how do you regulate yourself during sessions or when you work with groups? And I remember that you told me the exercise or the experience you have with the elastics, that you just allow yourself to actually pay attention and observe and allow it to move.
Exactly. And micro movements are brilliant for that, because you can regulate yourself without anybody else noticing it. And some people tell me, I want to regulate, but, I have people sitting in front of me. How do I do that? Because movement is well, the elastics is such a small micro movement. Nobody notices it, but a lot of things happen in your own body. So that's ideal when you do presentations in front of a group of people. You feel anxiety, use it, because then your anxiety will be over before you know it. Yeah.
And with every encounter, you feel discomfort, you feel stuck, you feel whatever. Just, it's my own experience. It could be the micro movements, or it could be a little bit, and then it's maybe not the macro movements, but just the small movements of your hips, the small movements of your hands, of your fingers, of touching your thighs or rubbing your own hands. There's so many small movements that you can make for yourself to be aware of your body and allow it to regulate itself.
And you immediately feel that. You become more grounded, and the person you're interacting with will feel it too. So you're co-regulating. That's when it gets really interesting. And you see a good example of that, of mothers and babies. If the mother is really calm, the baby will be a lot calmer as well. But if the mom gets scared because the baby is crying, oops, then it often goes around the other way. So you have a big impact on the other person if you are self-regulating. And you're doing that also in favor of the person sitting in front of you. Yeah, for sure.
Again, the most beautiful gift you can give yourself and others is being responsible for what you feel.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a thing that a lot of new therapists go through, because I work with young therapists who are training to become good and say, well, I have a person sitting in front of me. And then I'm thinking, I don't know what to do. So they lose themselves. What do I do then? Do you have like a toolbox with all these methods that you can quickly scan to know what to do? I said, no, you just breathe. You breathe, and that's what will bring the difference, because then you connect with the person in front of you again, and you'll know what to do. It's the being. So self-regulation is a key competency for any caretaker, to be honest. Yeah, or parent, or for everybody, basically.
And why are we not taught? Why are we not taught in school, in any school, for a young age or in high school or whatever? Not only when you want to become a therapist or you're starting to work with people, but why are we not taught about self-regulation?
Well, I think the question is more, why were we not taught in self-regulation? Because today we are teaching. So I teach polyvagal in schools at the organizations who deal with children. So CLB, it's a Belgian organization that deals with that. But I think I was definitely not taught this in school. You were not.
Me neither.
And I think that education has to evolve a lot still to be able to integrate those basics into our educational system. I think it's becoming more and more widespread in different cultures now. And I know that there's a lot of effort in the States as well to have those things part of education. But it's the life school. Yeah, it goes further than all the functions and the standard things we learn. So I hope this podcast and the book will participate to that learning curve as well. Yeah.
I know it will. I know it will.
Yeah,
it will support it in a huge way. The thing that I wanted to ask is, what about fear? Because fear very often holds you, me, anybody. It holds back. Very often, the thing that you're drawn to. So fear, of course, is an emotion like any other emotion. And what can you tell more about fear, and how maybe to, especially not listen to it, but learn to work and learn to move with fear?
Yeah, I have a different perspective on fear, in the sense that I think it's a very beautiful mechanism to wake us up. What happens is, if we experience feelings, and those feelings are intense, then the physical body is not always able to integrate those feelings. And when that happens, the mental body will create fear. It's a survival mechanism to make sure that temporarily you can actually make it safe And you can actually buy time to be able to integrate the feelings in your body, to embody the feelings. So in that sense, fear is a great signal from the mental body. The only thing you have to do is look at it, observe it. And we usually run away from fear. Yeah. If we can see fear as something that helps us rather than something that blocks us or that paralyzes us, because it often does, yeah, that's a result, then we can overcome it much quicker. So a lot of people experience fear in my sessions, a lot, because there's a lot of emotions suddenly arising. People are not used to it, or they have a backflash from something that happened in a traumatic event. I always tell them you have two options. You can step out of the fear, and that's perfectly okay, because I'm not the one dealing with that at the moment. Or you can tell me where you actually feel that fear in your body. And it can be the stomach, for instance. And I said, okay, what do you want to do? You want to put oxygen to it and breathe into it, or you want to run away from it? And some people tell me, I want to run. I said, okay, I'm opening the doors, run now, because that movement in itself will create a transformation. Yeah. But allowing that fear and looking the fear right into the eye is often a way to very quickly transform it into something else. Also, I had not so long ago a person who was nearly scared of everything. She did not want to, or she could no longer drive, she could no longer fly, she was unable to visit large spaces and so on. Instead of, analyzing the fear, and when she said, because I may have had an accident, or it may have been this, or it may have been that, or I had an experience as a child, and so on, I said, okay, just lie down. And if you close your eyes and you think about driving a car, where do you feel that in the body? And we started from there, and then it got real intense, and she wanted to run. And I said, okay, what you going to do now? Are you going to run, or are you going to stay with it? She had a choice, and she said, I'm going to stay with it. And then we came into a space where she completely lost control of her body. She had an accident, fell on her knee, and the knee was completely open. So it was very traumatizing for her. So in that moment, when that accident happened, she did not have the physical capacity to experience the feelings of, it was disgusting. She said, it was so disgusting to see what I was seeing. And that's why the fear was helping her to not go there. And it's temporary, because the fear stays there until you have the bodily capacity to deal with that emotion again. And I always say then, okay, just be a little bit patient, because that fear will not stay there forever. However, what usually doctors do today, they usually say you have an anxiety problem. Mm-hmm. And if you don't take medication, that anxiety will stay there forever. Mm. They don't see it as something that can be transformed. And medication helps to suppress it, so the anxiety gets bigger over time.
Mm-hmm. And actually, in that way, they stimulate people to make a thing about it, or that people start to believe, okay, I have a problem, or I am anxious. Yes,
it is something. It's part of who I am. Mm-hmm. Whereas it's just a mechanism that the mental body has developed to give you some time to grow until you can deal with the emotion. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
mm-hmm. That's what we have been talking about in the third episode, I think, with trauma and especially conditioning. This is a perfect example of conditioning that you go to the doctor and you leave the end of the visit with the doctor, and you leave with an identification, the diagnose, and suddenly you have a thing.
You have a thing, and you will have it forever. That's the worst you can think, really. Anxiety is always something that passes, and temporarily it's a good mechanism, because you can also retract. It means I'm not going to do too many adventures for the next 6 months. I need to deal with something first. I need to build the capacity to transform the emotion ahead of that specific moment. Yeah.
And a message that's for me very clear at the end of this episode again is allow yourself the time to connect and to feel those emotions, those symptoms of your body. Yeah. There's not a race, there's no finish at all.
Yeah. Well, 90% of the cases when people tell me I have an anxiety problem, I come from my anxiety, I work with the body. So I will start by releasing the psoas, because often that's the physical part of the body that was trying to hold the emotion in the first place. So by empowering the psoas to hold the emotion, the anxieties often go down. The second thing I do a lot is grounding with people with anxiety. And those two alone already deal with 50% of all anxiety issues. The rest is trauma release. So know that it's not a condition for life. It is not who you are. And you can use your body to get over it. Yeah. And if you need to take medication, because some people do take medication, say that's fine. We're going to build it down until you're capable to transform it in full. Yeah.
Good. Last question, Anja. Mm-hmm. In your book, what is the message that you want to bring in at the end of this podcast episode about the emotions that maybe is even opened up a lot further in your book?
The theme of how do you experience your emotions? So are they completely frozen? Are they extreme? For instance, do you explode instead of just being angry at times? And how do you deal with that in an interaction with another person? I always, and that's what I say also in the book, you cannot go from a complete suppression of feelings to a very flowy state of feelings. There's always a period of where you need to accept that you will be a bitch or a bastard, that you will make mistakes because those blocked emotions need to be released at some point. Go with that, accept that that's a temporary process, and afterwards you will be able to feel and express and be, confident in sharing what is happening on the inside. That's definitely something that is more explored in the book.
And then 2025 is my bastard awakening.
All right.
I had some experiences this year that that has shown me that there's a bastard alive inside of me, and he wants expression. He wants to be part of who I am. And it's been a bumpy ride, but
sure,
it's more than worth it.
It's more than worth it. That's where the divine part comes in, doesn't it? Definitely. It's definitely worth it. Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you for sharing that, Thomas. Yeah.
Thank you for this episode again. See you next time.
Again soon. Bye. Thank you for joining us on the path of awareness. Pay attention, open up, and remind yourself that awareness is not a destination. It's a way of life. See you in the next episode.